You're on mute, Mark.
Previous session.
I think there were still people coming out, wasn't there?
Is that better?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can anyway.
Good, good, good.
Who is our lead for this one now? Because Richard's gone to group through. Keith.
Sorry. Hello. I've just found out how to join it. So I was struggling. It's okay last week, but not this week. Okay. I've been dropped in the slot here without much knowledge about what we're going to do. But as I see it, I can be your scribe and just show my screen and capture your comments. So if I share my screen on the document that was released last time, if I can find where it is, it's going to be that one there. So is this, everybody happy with this? Is this what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the update that Richard sent, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got the black is what he did last time, what we started with last time, and the green is what he believes we recommend it to be changed to. I don't know whether, do you want to go through one at a time? We've probably got time. We've got 20 minutes or so, haven't we? So, or not? Or did you want to cover something else?
Sensible.
Anybody? Okay, so basically, I suggest we ignore the black and just go with the green, and I'll read it out if you want. I don't know whether you all want to just read it separately. I'll start and see how we get on. So, applying the 3 types of inspections is a key element to achieving a fire door compliant building as part of a holistic and robust fire door set management system. The system must be compliant with the Fire and Building Safety Acts, along with any future legislation. The following list of recommended actions is provided as useful guidance on how such a system might be implemented. I guess that list is coming from one of the other groups. So if you have any comments that you want to change, you can either submit them later, or I can make changes here and track my changes in Word if it's minor stuff. So
Keith, is it worth just as a different colour on that one to put that we're presuming it's being delivered by another group, just in case that they think that that's our final version and that they don't pick it up and nobody else does provide it?
Okay, so if I try and do track changes.
What are you talking about? The following list of recommended actions?
Yes.
Well, I think isn't the following list our 4.2 through to 4.10?
So it's these
then?
Okay.
I think that's our list of actions. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so we no comment then. Fine. Shall we move on to the next one then? So 4.2, decide on budget and timescale. This is potentially a major exercise, likely requiring both a high level of commitment and resource. It should be noted that an accurate cost is unlikely to be determined prior to the action plan being implemented due to a lack of initial information. This is the first step which will impact on everything below. What do you think?
My recollection is we discussed that to put a budget to something and a timescale, you need to know what you're doing. So
yeah,
I think
the objectives and aims is missing.
We were just trying to say that you can only do that when you know what you've got to do. Yeah. You can't decide a budget and a timescale if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes. Shall we come back to that later then maybe and see if that it resolves itself working through or not? I mean, please tell me what you want.
Is it something around it's unlikely to be determined prior to the action plan being what's the word? It's not being implemented. It's the action plan being agreed or defined. You need to define the action plan, which are your goals. Then you can cost and budget them.
Yeah, you need to know the full scope.
Yeah.
So do you want to change that to defined like that? Was that what you wanted? Or not? But I'm not showing it's not quite sure it's track changes. I thought I would do that, everybody. Or do we reviewing pain? I don't know. So shall I just say defined instead of implemented here?
Yeah, I think yeah, if you change the implemented to defined, I think that helps.
Okay. Let's
Yeah,
we can come back to it if you want to. So next one then. Decide on the key players and their roles in terms of creating and delivering the system. Probably involving both internal and external personnel. Before this can be undertaken, a decision must be made on how competence of the key players will be determined. Yes. So
I was thinking there that you need to sort of put that as the competence is determined by either company or individual or both. And then it's a matter of what qualifications, certification or accreditations either has. Does that give us?
Well, competency can be a whole host of things, can't it? Not just necessarily qualifications, etc. It's quite a wide ranging definition.
Accreditation,
really.
I'd say accreditation, maybe. That.
Yeah,
it's tricky, isn't it?
All I had was accreditation, certification, i.e. third party, someone has given you that certification, or qualification, as you say, competency. There may be other words in there that sit in with the competency as well.
Okay, well, I'll put that in as a check word. Did you want to put something else there? Was it accreditation or something else? Was it?
I had certification, whether that's a different to accreditation or as an additional. Okay.
I mean, I think at this point, I'd have thought that the idea is to get as much done as possible, like because what we're doing is brainstorming, isn't it? And then we can check things off. And the idea is not to forget stuff, ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, the difficulty I see with competency and so on. I mean, well, accreditation is quite important, isn't it? It's all right saying, "Oh, we've got to have this competency," but then somebody's got to somehow validate and say, "Well, if this guy's going to sign this door off, is he allowed to, or do you just take his word for it?" And then you end up, if something goes wrong, somebody will look back and say, "Oh, well, he wasn't accredited, therefore you can't do it." So I see that as a bit of an issue somewhere.
Well, yeah, that person shouldn't be doing the job, should they? No,
but nobody's, unless you're checking that, nobody's going to know until it's too late. If you're so I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, well, that's given us something to work with, I think, for next time. Now this one, okay. Agree a targeted action plan. Acknowledging budget, access and time constraints, it would be reasonable to adopt a pragmatic approach to establish a reasonable time frame in which to complete the works. So what we're saying here is if it's a 6 monthly check, say, it's got to be done, for example, within a month of the due date type of thing, or 2 months, or whatever you think appropriate. Yeah, I think that's what we're saying.
I think we were talking last time about that we could base this on similar to like a fire risk assessment, that there's going to be some stuff that needs to be done urgently or immediately, and then there's other stuff that is just routine maintenance that can be picked up along the line. It doesn't necessarily need to be done kind of now or in a month. It could be just picked up the next time it's
Yeah,
planned.
I think the action plan is sort of referring to the whole project, if you
Yeah.
like, which might include monthly, 6 monthly, yearly inspections, or anything in between. I think that it's not talking about specific inspections per se, is it? It's around the overall scheme, the plan of how you manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with the hospital where according to SFG 20, they had a fire door inspection, and it would have been a full-time job for somebody just walking around checking fire doors all day long every day, or more than one, and it just seemed crazy. And
Excuse me for a minute. Sorry.
and they came up with the suggestion that it was to be done differently in busy places than in quiet corridors, for example. So if you're going to adopt that, you would need to assign a category, wouldn't you, to any particular fire door set? Should we put that down or not? I don't know whether you agree with this. I'm just throwing ideas in. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Is it worth adding in here as well for access attempts as well? Some organisations I've spoken to, when you class the reasonable endeavours, some people are happy with 2 access attempts. Some people have gone for 3. So I don't know whether that's worth adding in.
And what happens? You say if you can't get in 3 times, you give in or not? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So basically, if you go to access on the first attempt, I know personally for our organisation is we're actually going down the 3 access attempt route. So basically, what we're doing is we're documenting every time we're going to access. So it's a picture of the card going through the front door through the letter plate, and that way, if we're asked to document our access attempts, we've got a picture there of the front door with a number and the card going through the door to evidence that.
Yeah, we've also got a large customer that's going with 3 attempts as well, and then the system we developed for them automatically emails the responsible person on the client side, who can then action legals. They can get some official letters pinged out and sent off to that address. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, legal. That's another discussion. That, I mean, I know some people are actually going like you have with your gas and your ICR kind of route. I know some people aren't going down the legal route just to document, but other organisations are.
I'll just call it escalate then.
Yeah,
whatever you decide is appropriate.
Yeah. I'd say.
So you go there if you decide it's a 3 attempt, you don't tell anybody until you've got to attempt 3, gone past attempt 3 and failed. If you do 1 and 2 and you don't comment to anybody, you just shrug your shoulders and say, "Okay, I'll come back."
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I've been told. Is as long as you can evidence that you've attempted to get into 2 to 3 times, that is classed as reasonable endeavours, as what the fire service is saying. So, obviously, from our perspective, if you're from a housing association like we are, if we had continued no access or we challenge of getting access in the property, we kind of drafting the housing team to maybe help support us with that. Again, you can document that as well with obviously bringing in other departments to assist with you as well. Again, further evidencing that you're trying to attempt to access.
Okay. Okay. So any approach taken in this respect should be underpinned by the risk assessment process. So that would all be part of that, wouldn't it? It's part of your decision as to how many attempts you make and what the escalation is. Did it make the building shut it down or something? What does it do if it's not compliant? I don't know whether anyone else to add anything there.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, you're not required to go down the legal route. You've just got to document that you've attempted at least 2 times. That's what I've been advised on.
Yeah, that doesn't get it fixed though, does it? It doesn't get
it doesn't get it fixed. It doesn't get it fixed. I totally agree with you. It doesn't, but that's where you need to make your own decision on how and what your approach is and what you've just put there. You like I say, with us, we draft in the housing team off as a leaseholder we were having issues with. We get the leaseholder team involved with it to try and help support us with it, with access.
And then sometimes you can even use the gas team, because if they've got the legal right of access for their annual test, that even if it was a 6-monthly test, if you can get in with the gas
Piggyback
team,
on the back, yeah.
yeah. then there's, as an association or as a company, there's going to be different approaches. We can't define that for them, but what we can do is kind of just have something in there about it.
Yeah, it's a good point, that, Sandra. Yeah, I mean, we've done that with the ICRs, especially, and like basically piggybacked on the back of the gas. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll move on, and if you don't want me to add anything there, if you do, please shout up. But also, it would be advisable to discuss the plan with the authority having jurisdiction, e.g. the Fire Rescue Service, which is the enforcing authority, or insurers, to make sure they are satisfied with the proposed timescales. This is all part of, I suppose it is the plan. That's what we're looking at, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to say one aspect maybe missing is resident engagement here, because if it's like obviously a high-rise building and you need access, so maybe getting the input from residents could be important on how often they want to maintain the fire doors, what's the best way to contact them about the inspections. So it might be something useful to allude here in the plan.
Yeah, that's another good point. And I'll just revert back to what our approach is with that. So say if we can't access for the first time, we've actually got a dedicated contractor who has their own admin, who actually phone in the residents directly to try and rearrange an appointment with them. Also, we've obviously had letters go out to residents, and we've had quite a good response for the people we couldn't get access to, who've actually contacted the contractor to rearrange appointment themselves, which has been helpful.
I like the fist there. It's like banging on the door. Let me in. Intervention. So we're only considering door sets, aren't we? Because the stuff I've been involved with hospitals where the FM don't even know where there are fire dampers in the ceilings, in the ductwork. How the hell can they? So they've never maintained them,
Yeah.
I'd like to say that was an individual case, but I don't think that is.
Well, I think a couple of years ago they were panicking, weren't they? NHS were panicking that most hospitals were like that, and they just didn't know. So they went and had a big survey. Don't know that you guys got involved in it, but anyway, yeah, we're on residential anyway, so. But I guess there might be residential equivalents of ductworks. Yeah, don't know. Okay.
Yeah, there definitely is, because you'll have them on, especially high rises. You'll have the bin chutes that'll have dampeners on the bottom of them, and then you've got them on some heat recovery systems. So yeah, they're easily forgotten because they're hidden away in places that nobody looks.
And of course,
I think
skip is where they have fires. Yes.
Yeah. The point we were sort of making here was that you can't just take the door set in isolation. You've got to take into account the wall that it's sat in. And particularly in residential, we all know, there's cables running left, right, and centre into people's flats, and it's making sure that you're looking at the whole thing and not just the door set.
Okay.
I think it's just the second half of the paragraph that confuses it a little bit for me, where it's about it might just be one-off remediation and does not require. I think if you're responsible, you're going to look at things around the door set as well. I think it's that's got to be looked at the same time, really. Otherwise, the door set.
We would never do a door inspection without ascertaining any risks associated with the wall that it's sat in. Because it'd just be pointless.
Yeah, surrounding construction is, I think, the term of floor, ceiling, walls, anything that it's sat in. Yeah.
So this is just my interest in a way. So if you take a corridor, most of the services run down the corridor, and therefore they would run over the fire door. If you've got a suspended ceiling, you would have loads of cables and pipes running across the top of the fire door, and all of that needs to be sealed. All of that breakage in the firewall, but you can't get to see it, can you? I mean, would you go into the ceiling and look at it? Is that going to be on the list?
Should be, in my view.
Well, it
We
depends
would
on the
certainly
risk.
we would certainly lift a couple of ceiling tiles so you could have a look above.
Okay, so shall I put a note there here then that we need to consider that as to whether it's part of the fire door or part of the firewall inspection, or have you decided it's part of the fire door set?
Mm.
In theory, it's not part of the fire door set, but I think both Mark and I come from the point of view that if you're providing a service of inspecting a door, you need to fully understand where that door sits and what the issues are surrounding it. Otherwise, you can have the best door in the world, but if the wall's not going to sustain and hold the fire in place, there's not a lot of point having the door there.
Yeah, may as well not be a fire door if the other things that support it aren't to the same specification. Yeah.
Especially the bit above it, because that's where the heat goes, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've made that note. I mean, the idea of this is for me to just make reminders, and then when you get your copy, you can add to it as you see fit. So, okay, identify and satisfy safety fire door training needs, the majority of which is likely to be fire door awareness training. Training to include all staff who might access the building along with all residents. I mean, somebody's a resident, you're going to give them a fire door training course, are you? That's not going to happen, is it?
It's more about an understanding of the importance of the fire door. So it wasn't necessarily that you could offer, I suppose, but yeah, it was more about making sure that there's more buy-in, that they understand what the importance is.
Yeah, just awareness more than anything, not to remove a door closer or anything like that,
It's sort of flagging up their responsibilities, isn't it? You're responsible not to keep the door jammed open with a fire extinguisher. That's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I've actually been visitor to buildings where before I'm allowed in the building, I've had to sit through a video about safety. And
wow.
That's nothing compared with taking over a residency. So you could give them a video and make them sign to say they've seen it, or you could have it as one of these training videos where they'll ask questions afterwards, so they have to answer the questions. I don't know. It's just a thought.
It would make sense if it tied in with fire alarm, checks where everyone has to come out the building while it's, tested. You just have a reminder there and then, some sort of handout to do with the the fire alarm system.
Yeah, alarms, general, etc. I mean, I'm gonna put a note here. Just video.
It's awareness and responsibilities, isn't it? I think for at that sort of staff and resident level.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think they do have some responsibility. They can't claim they don't, because if they don't treat things as they should be, then it won't work.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's the classic thing with fire doors where people hold them open with the fire extinguisher and stuff. Obviously, you don't need that if you've got automatic release mechanisms and they're held open. Is that presumably you have both? You have both live at any time. I mean, they're not all automatic, are they?
No, not in housing associations. That normally it's just normal door closers, apart maybe if they're in old people's or people with limited mobility.
Yeah. Okay. So that covers the list. Anybody want to add anything else? Or did you want to go through anything again? Do you want to just quickly go through these again? Well, how long have we got? Still got 10 minutes, I think. All right. I don't know what time we started. It says on hold 25 minutes, so maybe we've only got 5 minutes. But we did say at the beginning that it's worth, we might want to revisit back at the beginning here. So applying 3 types of inspections is a key element. to achieving fire door compliant building as part of a holistic and robust fire door management system. The system must be compliant with Fire and Building Safety Acts, along with future legislation. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? How do you deal with some legislation arrives? You then got to go and update everything you've done on all your buildings, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's exactly
that-
what's been happening.
Yeah. That was January, wasn't it? January 23rd. So yeah.
but in order to do that, yeah, you need a so you have a sort of building logbook, don't you? Would you have a building logbook that would record things, and you would say, right, we've now updated this building to comply with this legislation? I mean, I don't know.
In other industries, you have a compliance matrix of like legislation and standards that affect your system. So you may have a list of fire regulation standards or building sort of requirements that you need to meet, and then usually you'd have horizon scanning of future legislation that's going to come into and have that impact on your system. So you'd have that as part of your safety management system as horizon scanning for future legislation coming through.
So my thoughts from where I'm coming on is that who's ever the responsible manager within the housing association needs to be able to go onto his screen and make sure all of his buildings have got a red tick to say they've been updated or not, and that updated tick comes through the responsible person actually signing it off, basically to say, yeah, I've done it, it's been done, and I sign it off. So it's a process of getting it done, and then a different person or the same person even validating, approving it to say, yeah, it's done. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's having a date stamp, of who has said it's now compliant, and evidence to access and show where that information is. Yeah.
And also, depending on the software system you have, that sometimes you get a dashboard like you do with other compliance areas that quite clearly show you whether you're compliant or not compliant, just by a kind of circle with a green and red indicators.
Yeah, like Meridian, I think, is a risk assessment, isn't it? Which insurers also tap into. So, if you
come to everybody to tell us to go back. So I'm not sure. I think we just leave this now and we end up back in the original one, I think.
Yeah, I think it's not
Yeah.
used the initial link.
It's just the
isn't it?
group 2 was rejoined the main meeting.
Okay, well, we're done now, so we'll come back and join you in the main one, Jess.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, cheers then. Thanks, guys.
bye.